Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I welcome back a very special guest, a member of the Boston University women's hockey team, Allan, joins the show today. Welcome back to the podcast, Alex, and how's everything going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. I really appreciate it. So what have you been up to since the season ended a few months ago?
For the most part, I've just been training, finishing up classes, final exams, and everything. I've also been studying for the MCAT exam to hopefully apply to medical school. So yeah, I've been pretty busy.
That's good to hear. And I guess what was school like this year for yourself? Was it all online or did you have like any in-person classes?
It was a hybridized format, so some classes you could go in, some like for me were completely online. Like I didn't go into any classes except for one like or two labs this whole semester, this whole year actually. So it's been mostly online for me.
And do you like the new online school format or do you prefer in person? Because I'm starting to enjoy a little bit more online now just because it's easier to manage your time. However, the only thing I don't like about it is it's harder to interact with the professor just because you have to email them and they might take a while to respond. But other than that, I feel like it's been a good experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, like I really like online classes just because just with my major, like and my minors that I'm doing, I have to go back and forth across campus for classes. So it's been nice to have like you go to your class and then you can like sit in between classes, do work or something. So I think it's definitely a better use of my time personally, but I know some people don't really love the online classes.
How do you handle the Zoom breakout rooms? Because for myself, I actually hate them. They're super awkward. How do you handle it?
Yeah. No, I'm not a huge fan of them. I'm one of those kids that just kind of stays quiet in the breakout rooms and just waits for it to be over.
Same. I feel the same way. I have to ask everyone that just because like I never knew anything. I never knew what a Zoom breakout room was. I didn't know they had it until this year when every teacher feels like puts you in one. And it's the most awkward thing ever.
Yeah, I think it depends on the class how engaged I am in the breakout rooms, I guess I could say.
Yeah, well, I know from my major, I'm a communications major, so a lot of times you have to
Mhm.
talk to people in groups just about like the assignment we're doing. So I've had to deal with the Zoom breakout rooms a lot more. I had a very awkward experience last time. Like this person didn't have their microphone on; they were just typing to me what they wanted to say. So I was basically
Oh
talking to
God.
myself as a person was just typing what they wanted to say for the
Yikes.
project. So it's super awkward. So
Yikes.
I feel like I've had probably the worst experience with the Zoom breakout rooms, in my opinion.
It happens.
So what's your off-season plans going to look like this year? What do you hope to work on regarding your game?
My off-season plans are like I'm gonna be here, so obviously I'll be training every single day. I really want to work on like my transitional skating and like my in-game awareness. So lots of that has to do with the weight room and being on ice. So I'm lucky I'll be able to stay on campus and work on those two things the most.
Nice. Do you have any fun plans for the off-season or just hockey and training?
Um, Pretty much just hockey, school, a possible internship. Not too sure yet, but yeah, it'll be very like I'll be busy.
That's good, though. That's good. Now, I want to transition a little bit and talk about the season for a little bit. Your playoff game, you played against Providence in the playoffs this year in Hockey East. Talk about what happened during that game against Providence because your team played really well, in my opinion. You guys got 2 goals in the third period. However, it just wasn't enough to beat that team and move on to the next round.
Yeah, I think it's been a tough year for everyone, like regarding COVID and all the uncertainties that came with it. I remember Providence missing many players from their roster that game because of COVID, contact tracing, quarantine. So I think my team might have also seen that as like, oh, they have a short bench, and maybe we underestimated Providence, maybe not. I think we sort of figured it out more towards the end, but yeah, I think maybe in the beginning our slow start was due to like overestimate or underestimating, sorry, our opponent.
Yeah, and you guys only played 12 games this year. Do you think the lack of games had any effect on your playoff performance?
I mean, I think it's tough for, I mean, everyone also, like, everyone had a different experience this whole year. I mean, some teams played a lot of games, some teams hardly played any, some teams had to stop, some teams didn't. So I think it was just tough on everyone, really. But it is difficult when you don't have the consistency of like 2 game weekends every single weekend and you don't know who you're playing next weekend, or it's just like a lot of things contribute to the way the season went this year. So I'm not sure like if it was just because of COVID, but yeah, it was tougher not being able to play lots of games together as a team for sure.
Yeah, and talking about the consistency, it felt like your team couldn't really get in a rhythm for scheduling. It seems like you guys played your first games in like early December, and then you guys didn't play until like January, I think. So how'd you try to get that rhythm build up during the season, not having that consistent schedule?
I think a big thing with that is just focusing, like I found even myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, who are we playing this weekend? Who's next? Like what's gonna go on? What's happening? Is there quarantine? Is there a pause? I don't know. And I think the biggest thing is like just focus on what you can control. And I think that's something everyone on our team and probably other teams as well learned. Like I can't control if someone on the other team gets COVID. I can't control who we're playing against this weekend. Like you just kind of like, for me personally, I just focused on myself, did what I needed to do, and whenever I found out who I'm playing, great. But I tried not to let it affect me as much and just focused on what I could control and not let the external like come in and you know.
Yeah. And on the last podcast, we talked about the leadership you wanted to bring to BU, especially being an upperclassman. Boston University had a really young team this year, especially on the defensive side of things. How would you evaluate your leadership skills this year? And looking back on this year, like how would you evaluate the leadership skills and what type of leadership did you want to bring?
I think my leadership skills actually helped bring those freshman D in with getting set up with the team and just being able to relax and play their game. Like I know when I was the only freshman D, I was super worried about external factors like what other D were thinking of me when I got to play instead of them for a shift or something like that. But I think this year I was able to squash that like worry for the freshmen so they could focus on playing their game in an environment where like for the D side, of course, like everyone is super supportive of their teammates and like it's just a good environment that allows everyone, like if someone else succeeds, everyone succeeds.
And how did you try to help the freshmen learn the new system and transition into college hockey, especially during a year like this where, like you were saying, you have the inconsistent schedule, and it was also you guys had to deal with a lot of COVID protocols, so you guys couldn't really be together that much throughout the season.
Right. So our coaches actually printed out a little playbook. It's like this big for us to look back on in case we're unsure about the systems, which was probably super helpful for the freshmen. And I mean, if they had any questions about it, they would ask any of the older girls or the coaches. But I think it was best for them to learn systems as we did it in practice, because obviously, as when you're doing it, it's different than looking at it on a piece of paper. But for the defensemen, especially, like it was easier for them to do it because they can look at to their D partner for help as well on the ice.
Yeah, I was talking to Catherine Fulham on the podcast a few months ago, and she referenced herself of how you basically brought the freshmen together for one practice just to work on systems, and I thought that was really cool. Like how you try to help
Yeah.
them out and try to help them learn the system because I think in a few years that would definitely help them when they're upperclassmen, teaching the underclassmen how the system works.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's good that they can be just in a good environment and not like worry about, I mean, there's such like a stigma of the older players are gonna tear into the younger players. Like I feel like that should be squashed, and I think I try to do that as much as I could this year by just like bringing everyone together and like just making it like a much better, like more relaxed environment than maybe it has in the past years.
Now talk about Catherine Fulham. She's such a great person, but she's also a really good defenseman this year. What's she been like as a teammate so far?
Fulham's, she's funny. She's a crazy girl. I really have enjoyed getting to know her. I mean, it's been tough too with the freshmen. They live in a different dorm than me, and like with the COVID restrictions at BU, we're not allowed to go into any of the other dorms. So usually, like when I could have them over for dinner because I have a kitchen and they don't, like stuff like that was sort of taken from us. So being able to get to know them was a little bit tougher, just all around, because the only time you could really see them was at practice or if you were to meet up and go get a coffee or something. But yeah, I think she's definitely grown into her role on the team, and she's going to have a really good year next year for sure.
And what was it like to play this year without any fans? And was that an adjustment for yourself, not having that crowd noise?
Yeah, I think it was very different. Not it wasn't as much like not being able to have fans, but it was more that we couldn't have the BU band there. I mean, like the BU band brought so much life to our game, and like every time we would have a stoppage in play, they'd play, or every time we'd go on the ice, like they'd have the same song that like hypes us up a bit. So I think that was like the biggest adjustment. We were able to get like the BU band like soundtrack on the loudspeaker, so that was kind of nice. But I don't know. I think it was a little bit different not being able to have fans, and like even for friends and family to even come watch, like it's different like looking up into the stands and seeing no one for sure. But I don't think it really affected anyone's like game per se.
Yeah, no, I missed the BU band. They're ruthless sometimes to the
Yeah,
opponent.
they're good.
It's pretty cool to see sometimes. Like I went to a game at Aganis, and yeah, what they were saying to the goalie was pretty stuff I can't really repeat on the podcast. It was definitely
Yeah,
pretty ruthless to say the least.
yeah, definitely. When I was a freshman, my first game, and I heard the BU band and heard them yelling, I was like, whoa.
What's the best chant you from the BU band from your time so far?
Um, that's tough. I really like it's not really a chant, but I love like the entrance song, like when we're going on the ice for like warm-ups or like our first like shift, I guess, of the period. Like once we're like stepping onto the ice, the song they play, it's like Go Be You. It's I think that's like such a good song and it gets everyone super excited.
Now, another thing we were talking about just earlier was the schedule changes that happened throughout the regular season. I guess how did you prepare for opponents this year? Because in Hockey East, you didn't find out who you were going to play until the Tuesday before the weekend.
Hmm. Um, I think honestly, like I said before, like I personally just took it as it went. I focused on myself, my preparation, what I needed to do as a player. Did my thing in practice, and like I didn't really let the outside affect me. I didn't really not care, but like I wasn't bothered by who we were playing until that was finalized or until like we were there. Like I would keep it in mind during practice, but like it would never like affect me so much that it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're not playing them anymore. So I think that really helped me honestly and like helped me just stay focused on hockey and like just didn't let the outside factors control me or affect me in any way.
Now, 3-on-3 overtime was also introduced to college hockey this year. As a defenseman, what was it like to have more space in the ice and having more offensive opportunities to score goals?
I think it's a lot of fun actually. It gives the players time and space to showcase their skills and get things going in terms of offense. So I think 3-on-3 is a really good way and like to just get out there and do your thing and not really have any like space constraints or time constraints because there are only three people per team on the ice. So I think it's more fun than anything. But
Yeah, no, it also eliminates ties. And I don't know about yourself, but I absolutely hate ties. It's the worst thing ever
yeah,
when you go to a game and it's like a 2-2 tie and you don't know who would have won the game. So I'm glad they got rid of that aspect of the game as
I
well.
agree.
Now, even though the regular season was short, you only played 12 games, your team had some impressive wins throughout the regular season. You beat Boston College towards the end of the year, and then you also beat a very good Vermont team during the regular season as well. How does those type of wins help prepare your team heading into the hockey's playoffs?
I think honestly, it just establishes a type of confidence like, hey, we can do this, even though we've had pauses or even though we've had adversity throughout the year. Like it just like shows, regardless of the quarantine pauses, like we just control what we can and just go into it. And just having those wins, even through all of the struggles we went through, I guess, or all the things we battled, like it just shows that we do have like resiliency and we can continue on. So I think lots of girls on the team took that into account when they were going into playoffs.
Now, how is playoff hockey different than regular season hockey in your experience so far?
I think playoff hockey is very different from regular season hockey. Not that regular season hockey games don't matter because they do matter a lot. I think it's just different because it's almost like if you lose, you're done. So it's just so much more intense and so much more like emphasis on everything you do. Like you're way less likely to do the stupid little plays that maybe you would do in regular season. Like it's just a lot more like competitive because if you do lose, you're done.
Hmm.
So I think that contributes the most.
Now, and this year was obviously single elimination format in the playoffs. Did you like that? And I guess did that change your approach heading into Providence this year compared to other playoff series you've had in the past?
I don't personally love single elimination playoffs because it does I feel that in my opinion it doesn't really show which team is the best team. It just shows which team played the best that day. So I would personally prefer like best two out of three games. I don't think it changed anything though for us. Like when we were going into it, like we've been in this position before where if you don't win, you're done. And I mean, we didn't show up the whole game, and I think Providence really pushed a lot just like to make up for the girls that they had in quarantine. So I think that's something that we'll definitely learn from.
Definitely. Now, in the last podcast, I never got to ask you, what's it like to play under your head coach, Brian DeRocher? What's it been like to learn with him under for the last 3 years? Because talking to some former BU players, they say he still calls them on their birthdays. He's like one of the nicest guys ever. Does he do that with yourself, even though you're still on the team?
Yeah, he's definitely like one of the nicest guy ever. Like he sends you like little cards, like handwritten little notes, like in the mail. He'll send it to you, and he'll send it to me in Canada, which is I think is crazy because it's like it's a lot more expensive to ship mail to Canada than it would be to like just give it to me or something. So I think that's super cute. Playing for him though, I think it's been a very interesting shift for me personally, from my high school coach to being coached by Coach D because he's more soft spoken than I'm personally used to. So the adjustment period came as a freshman and it's been such a good experience since then, like being coached by him. Him and the other coaching staff bring like really good complementary coaching styles that come together well. Like Coach Liz played at Princeton, Watshorn played for BU and Team Canada in the Olympics. Coach D played for BU and has been coaching since forever. So I've really enjoyed being coached by them, and like there's so much experience between all three of them from different backgrounds, so like different hockey backgrounds. So it's been definitely like a very good experience.
Does it help that he went to BU because he kind of knows the school a little bit?
I I say this all the time. I swear he knows every single person in the whole world. Like he knows everyone. Like he could go to any type of school and still know everyone. I don't think him going to BU has anything to do with anything.
Definitely. And I guess like is he the longest tenured head coach in Hockey East, or is it Dave Flint? Because I feel like he's been there for like at least over 10 years. I know that, but I feel like he's been there forever.
Yeah, he's definitely, I think he's been there for a very long time. I'm not sure exactly though. I'm not very
Yeah.
good with history, sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. But I do love. He's probably my favorite, one of my favorite head coaches in women's hockey. He does such an amazing job, and I can't wait to see some of the stuff he accomplishes in the next few years because he's good of a guy, but also a great coach as well.
For sure, I agree.
Now, another teammate I didn't ask you about last time we had you on the pod was Jessie Confer. What's she like as a teammate, and just talk about the leadership that she brings to your team this year, being named captain.
Jessie's definitely a lead by example leader, which makes sense because she's such a good hockey player to watch out there. I've enjoyed playing with her. Like I can't wait to see how she continues her hockey career with Team USA. It's very exciting.
Nice. And what's the best Jessie Confer goal you've ever seen score?
She has a lot of them. I wouldn't be able to pinpoint one. I think I know she scored an amazing one against Northeastern in the Bean Pot, and that's what I'll probably go
Nice. And as a defenseman, going against her in practice, how does that prepare you for a game? And I guess like, does she how many times does she burn you during practice, or do you ever get her sometimes?
I think that's a funny question because I get more excited when I go against her in practice because it's more like, I mean, she is the best of the best, one of the best players around right now, obviously, because she's been doing so well. And so I feel like for me, I mean, I'm never going to say that I'm even close to her skill level. So I think it's exciting for me when I go against her because it's like, if I can, I guess, handle how she plays in some sort of way, like it better prepares me to play against other people who may not be as like amazing as she is or maybe are, but I think it just definitely prepares me a little bit better and makes me better playing with her, someone like of her skill level for sure.
Now she's not coming back next year, right?
I'm not too sure. I mean, everything's like
Mhm.
changing so fast all the time, so I'm definitely not sure what her plans are.
Now I'm asking you that because I don't know, like, when do they announce like the leadership? When do they like when does BU gonna announce who gets the captain and who gets the C or
Um,
A?
I think I mean, I've been here for 3 years. So, like, the first year was probably the most normal year for me. And then, second and third year, now here we are. I really don't remember when they announced that. I want to say, like, soon, probably
Mhm.
within a month. That would be my best guess. But I'm really not sure when anything's going to be announced.
Awesome. I was just curious about that. Now, looking ahead
Yeah.
to next year, what are some of your goals and expectations?
So some of my goals are just to improve the little things that you might not think of. Like I can skate, I can shoot, I can pass. Like I want to like look into like the little things that maybe subconsciously you don't notice that you're doing or notice that you might not be doing. So something for me is like obviously shooting always can be better. Game awareness, transitional skating, and then like my leadership roles skills overall.
Nice. And we're now in the non-hockey segment of the podcast. We're asking you some non-hockey questions. My first non-hockey question to you is, how do you balance academics and hockey at such a high level? Because being a student myself, it's hard to balance just the academic part of it. But I feel like adding hockey on top of it makes it even more of a challenge to balance.
Yeah. I think that's a tough question because really everyone's different. Everyone's studying something different. Everyone's like, I guess, better at some things and worse at others. For me personally, the way I like to do it is I arrange my classes so that they're like pretty packed, like on 1 2 days. Like you go to BU, right?
I do not.
You don't? Okay. I mean, it's pretty similar for most universities, I feel like, but like there's like Tuesday, Thursday schedules and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday. For me personally, I like to load up Tuesday, Thursdays. So my Tuesdays and Thursdays suck. Like I'm like miserable all day long, but um my Monday, Wednesday, Fridays then give me a lot of space. Maybe I'll have only one class on those days. So then that will give me a lot of time to do homework, get things done that I need to do. And then for me, like I use tutors a lot. We're lucky that we get tutors. So I get to have tutors for lots of my classes, which help me personally a lot. So I think that's how I balance it the most is like to load up certain days and then leave days blank so that even if you have a practice and lift that day, like it's still fairly open so that you have at least like 8 hours a day to like do work on
Yeah, and
those like free days.
especially for yourself because you're a medical major, so you probably have a lot more work than some of your other teammates.
Yeah, biology is definitely tough. But I mean it depends. Like for me, I also have two minors as well, which kind of is like self-inflicted
Hmm.
brutality. But um I think it just depends on the person and really like what people are focused on and what's like everyone's passion as well. Like for me, I'm like I really love what I'm doing, so I don't find it like super tough that I have to grind it out or do a lot of homework on one day or something or load up my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays because that's just what works best for me and works best with my schedule.
Awesome. Well, what is the most interesting thing you have seen or read this week? It could be anything.
Um I mean, I haven't really been doing much this week just because of final exams. Honestly, like the most interesting thing I've seen is like just waiting for my final exam grades to be posted and to see what I've been getting in my class. I know that sounds boring and I'm sorry.
No, it's not a problem. I'm trying to think of anything interesting I've seen. Probably been kind of a slow news week, to be honest with you, which is a good thing
Yeah.
because recently it's been a lot of crazy stuff has been going on. I guess like probably the transfer portal stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of people are transferring schools
Very
just because
busy.
of the eligibility rule that's now in place. So I think it's been interesting to see where guys are heading now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, a lot of people know you as a great hockey player, but besides being a good hockey player, what is something you wish more people knew about yourself?
Oh God. I think that's a really tough one because I'm very like open and people know me very well. I feel like for me, although I'm like super extroverted, I do have an introverted side and I love to be alone sometimes, which is like sometimes surprising to some people because it seems like I'm like so loud and everyone's around me like sometimes. But I feel like COVID's really brought that side out of me this year, just with my introvertedness. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that not many people know.
I think it's good to have a good balance because I'm kind of the opposite way. I'm trying to reach out to more people and be more talkative, but I think it's good
Hmm.
to have like a balance of both. I think it works.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, if you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what would you say?
The world. Hmm. I think if I could narrow down my attention to just hockey players, which I'm gonna do for your question,
Okay.
I think um I think I would tell them the biggest piece of advice that like I learned through my time at BU, just through hockey and honestly it can apply to everything. Like for me, I really stressed this year, like to not worry about things that I can't control. Because I remember as a freshman, like I would worry about, oh, I wonder what people are going to think if I do this on the ice, or oh my gosh, the grades. Like sometimes you just can't control things, like and not to worry about it. Like focus on what you need to do in order to succeed, whether it's hockey or school related, and just do it. Like I feel like that's something that's really like taken a long time for me to understand, and that's like advice I gave to my freshmen, and I think that's what I would tell hockey players everywhere.
That's good. I definitely need that advice. I'm a bit of a control freak
Honestly, anyone
sometimes.
can take that advice. Like it's so like usable in life.
Yeah, no, I'm a bit of a control freak sometimes. So it's definitely hard when you like can't control something and it's like really bothering you. I definitely have that. So it's definitely something that the pandemic has taught me is try to not worry about things you can't control because there's nothing you can do about it. But it's definitely hard though. I think people don't realize that as well.
I agree. I'm also a very hardcore control freak, so
Mhm.
it's taken a long time for that to sit in.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what sports do you like to watch besides hockey, whether it's on campus or just professionally?
um, I'm not like a huge professional sports watcher. I love watching. Like I'm best friends with most of the guys on the basketball team. Like I love going and watching their games. I think it's so much more interesting when you know every single person that's playing than when you don't know anyone or they're like famous people. So I've actually really loved watching like college sports, like going and watching. I mean, now I can't, but I've been watching like field hockey. I have really good friends on the field hockey team. I went to watch like rowing races. Some of my best friends are on the rowing team. Like, I think it's cool to like be able to go and like watch different people play.
Yeah. Did the basketball team get to play this year, or was it just hockey?
Yeah, the basketball team played. It was kind of similar to like how we were stop and go, stop and go. So they didn't get to play very many games. I don't even think they got to play like half of the games that they should have. But yeah, they did end up playing, but it was tough.
How do you watch rowing? Is it in the Charles?
Yeah, so it's like across the Charles and there's a there's like the finish line. You really only get to see like the last 30 seconds, but it's still funny to go and like watch. It's kind of cool. Like they start like way up the esplanade and then they come down. I think it's like 6 minutes or something. So it's quick at least, but it's usually in the morning, which I don't love.
Nice. Have you ever rowed before? Because I've done it before, and it's actually super hard.
Yeah, I heard.
You have
I
to
see
learn.
them train.
Yeah, it's a great exercise though if you ever get the chance, because it works like I think like over 70% of your muscles, which I think is cool because not a lot of
Yeah, it's
exercises can do that. So, but
it's
it's
definitely
actually
an
really
endurance machine for sure.
nice. Now, last time we had you on the podcast, we talked about who had the best style on the team. Did any of the freshmen take over that title?
Hmm. I think Andy Calderon has really cool style too. I wouldn't say she took over the title, but she also has a cool little. And Lacey Martin also has really good style as well.
Nice.
So those are two
I,
freshmen to look out for.
nice. I think you might have the best style on the team. Unbiased opinion. I mean that.
Really? Wow,
Mhm.
I appreciate it.
How do you
That
like?
makes me feel good.
How do you like? How do you like? Make your? Do you have like anyone you've modeled your fashion game after, or hockey game after, or hockey style after?
mm, mm, no. I mean, when it comes to hockey style, I just try to not be made fun of, and then that can get you pretty far usually. I used to not wear sock tape. That wasn't very good, I guess. I don't really know what hockey style is, to be honest with you. I just kind of try and do what everyone else does so that I don't look weird. Honestly, like I think on the ice my style might look good, but like off like when you don't know, like I don't really care about hockey style. I don't really tape my socks properly like everyone else does.
Yeah. Do you ever get chirped for not wearing sock tape? Because I know someone has, and I just don't.
Oh,
I think it's a weird
yeah,
look,
no, I
honestly.
really did get chirped a lot. Like that's why I wear sock tape. I don't really need it. I just do it because I should.
Yeah. I feel like one
Like
like
if you ask anyone on my team, they just like look at me and roll their eyes because I just kind of put sock tape on because I'm supposed to.
yeah, it's a weird thing. I understand. But I think I'm trying to think like, yeah, no, it's cool because I don't know. Do you have any cool like skate laces or anything? I know people try to are really into that.
No, I have like really really short skate laces actually. Like my equipment manager is always surprised when I like tell when I break skate laces and I'm like, "Oh, I need the really short ones." He's like, "Really? Are you sure?" I don't do up like the top eyelet in my
Yeah.
skate. So it leaves a little bit more room for my ankles to bend as
That's
needed.
important. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I use like super super short laces. I think like the shortest ones that you can get for like adult size. So yeah, that's like my fun fact, I guess.
Are you a bubble or a cage person? I think you're a bubble. From
Yeah, I wore a cage actually this year. Just because like it would fog up like if I had the mask on because we had masks that like connected to our like cages,
yeah.
and with the bubble it would just cover up all the holes. I couldn't really breathe. I don't know if I really have a preference. I remember putting on a bubble. I put it on in high school just to like bother my coach because he really didn't like them, and then I just sort of kept it since that. I like the bubble more for the site, obviously, but just like if I was to be training in summer, like the bubble always fogs up and it's just like super annoying to always wipe it. So I have switched to a cage temporarily. I don't know if that will stay or not. I guess we'll see with masks and everything what I'll do, but
Yeah.
still not decided.
I'm more of a bubble person, like pre-pandemic, just because I think it
Yeah.
looks cooler. But I know some people hate the bubble, which I don't get as well. I'm more of a bubble person.
Yeah.
It's easier to see, and I think as a defenseman, you need to see the ice more, and the bubble it's easier to see when it's not fogging up.
Yeah, no, I definitely like it, especially when it's not fogging up. It just depends on the rink. It depends on how warm it is. It depends on so many things that, especially with the mask, like having to wipe it all the time. Like I would have to wipe it after every single shift. So it just didn't really make sense for me to wear it anymore, just
Hmm.
because like you don't always wait after your shift to go out again 2 minutes or something, right? Like sometimes you need to go out right away, sometimes not. So like if I have my helmet undone wiping my cage or my bubble while I'm like on the bench and I have to go on the ice. It just didn't really make sense. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You just should install like a windshield wiper on your.
Honestly, I need one.
But that would make it work.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, pre-game, do you guys like ever go over what you're gonna wear, like go into the rink? Because I talking to some of the guys, players on the team, they say like it's kind of a big deal. And Trevor Zegras, who played for BU, I always loved how he
Mm-hmm.
did it because he put the hat and he like really planned his outfit out. But Cam Crotty was telling me it's not about what you wear; it's about how you walk. It's all in the walk.
Oh
Is
my
that,
gosh,
do you
Cam,
agree
I
with
love
that?
him. um, No, well, I guess it depends. Like for girls, I feel like it's more important for the guys on what they wear. And I think that's kind of funny because that's like super not how stereotypically it is. But I
Yeah.
think for the girls, girls just wear like some like sort of dressy pants and like a cute top. Like girl, I feel like we don't put as much effort into it as the guys do because the guys have to put on their full suits. They need the hat, they need the shoes, they need the
Mhm.
walk for Cam, of course.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think it's definitely more like for the guys than it is for us. I just wear like a sweater and like pants and boots every time, and that works fine.
Nice. You don't have like, do you have any fashion icon you go model after pre-game? Or
Fashion icon. I don't know. I just it's like there's not one particular person. It's always like on Instagram. You look, you scroll through, you see people who have cute outfits, and I follow
yeah,
them and just see what they do. I mean,
yeah.
very unoriginal and uncreative, but
Yeah, you were telling me like how you get sharp for not wearing sock tape. And guys hockey, at least in my experience, if you're not wearing a good outfit pregame, oh boy, it is.
yeah,
You have to deal with the chirps a lot. So I
for
definitely
sure.
understand like where you're coming from. Who was the best trash talker on the team? I'm curious.
Trash talker. Interesting. I feel like that's a tough one because you don't really, I don't know. I feel like nobody really says anything. I mean, I think 2 years ago, Tash was definitely like the best trash talker, but I mean, obviously she's not here anymore. I don't know. I don't think we really have that much trash talk, to be honest with you. Like, there's not really much being said unless it's like in front of the net, but that's like usually the forward. So I would never really know.
Yeah, no, because I know sometimes like it's good to have a trash talker because they can draw penalties and give you guys more
Hmm.
penalty time, which is important. So sometimes it's
Well,
to the game
yeah.
you don't realize.
Yeah, no, I'm not too sure. I don't really think we have any of those like little chippy, chirpy kind of girls on our team this year. Maybe next year. I'll keep you updated.
All right, all right. Well, back to some hockey questions now. I want to get your thoughts on the Women's World Championships getting canceled and then getting rescheduled this August. I know Jesse
Hmm.
Hofer was actually supposed to be a part of that team, so I guess
Right.
what was your reaction to that whole situation?
I think it's tough because it comes back to like what I said before, like being able to control the controllables. Canada's been struggling with COVID, and the regulations there are more strict than ever right now, especially. But that's also why I'm personally choosing to stay in Boston and to train and take classes this summer. So I'm not super surprised that it was canceled. Like, of course, it sucks and it's super tough for the players who work so hard to like be able to play, but it is something that's out of their control, and hopefully it'll be able to happen in August, like as the vaccines roll out quicker in Canada.
I think the big thing was how they didn't have like a backup plan. Like there was just no
Hmm.
backup plan at all. And there was the men's under 18 championships taking place in Texas. I think that's what, at least from talking to the players, that's what seemed to make a lot of people upset. And I kind of agree with them on that.
Right.
I guess what was your thoughts on just them not having a backup plan?
I just think it's more to do with the location. Like the men's team is playing in Texas, they're playing in Canada. That's like
Mhm.
completely different. And I think lots of people, like especially lots of Americans, don't really realize how different it is. Like Canada is so strict. Like right now, like for me personally, like where I'm living at home, everything's shut down or shutting down. They have curfews, they have so many different rules in play. The borders are still closed. Like if you were to fly across the border, you would have to stay in a hotel for 2 or 3 days for a good amount of money. Like there's just so many rules and so many like things that are going against the world that I'm not surprised that it was canceled in Canada. Yes, they probably should have had a backup plan, but I think that's also like if they're playing in the States, I feel like it's a lot higher chances that they'd be able to do it than if they were to do it in Canada. But I know how the
Hmm.
like rivalry is up like back and forth. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that definitely like the location had everything to do with this being canceled, not as much like I don't know.
Yeah, Texas is a whole new world. I was watching a Red Sox game. They were playing the Rangers, and they had 100% capacity, and like masks weren't
Mhm.
required, and it felt like a whole new world just watching that game. It's so different.
Yeah, it's definitely very different. So that's why like it just depends on where you go, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Now, in your time in college hockey, who was the most underrated player you've ever played against? I'm curious about that.
Hmm. Someone I've played against. I mean, all the girls that are like super, super good and they're like super well known. I
Yeah,
don't know who, I don't really know who I would say like someone I played against that was super underrated. I mean, my good friend Cam Wong, I think she's very underrated. She
I
plays
agree
on
with you on
UConn.
that. Hmm.
I think she's a very underrated player. I can really only speak to like who I know, I guess, though, so that might be biased. I think another underrated player is someone on my team, actually. I think Tamara Giaquinto, she's a D. I think she was definitely like underrated this year, and I think she's gonna come out like next year and the years after and like shine, and everyone's gonna know her for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. I think another player was your other former teammate with the Steel, Danica Pascua. I think she's such a good
Mm,
player. She's great, brings a
yeah.
lot of offensive depth to that UConn team, and I feel like she
Mhm.
doesn't get enough recognition as she should.
Yeah, no, I think Danny and Cam are definitely very underrated.
I don't know if you watched any of that BC UConn game that was in the playoffs, but Cameron Wong was so great in that game. She shut down like a lot of BC's top scorers. It was awesome to see. And I think in the next year, she'll definitely get some recognition for how good of a defenseman she is.
Yeah, I agree. I love playing against Cam because I always giggle. Like I've played with her ever since I was young, right? So I know all of her moves, all of her little tricks, and like it's funny. Like when I play against her, I always giggle when she does her little moves because like I know it's coming and I see it happen right in front of me, and I like know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
So I think it creates like a fun little competition between us. But yeah, I think she's definitely a very underrated player who will shine next year for sure.
Awesome. Well, what are your thoughts on the podcast since we last had you on? I apologize if I seem nervous during our interview. It was one of my first ones I've ever done, so please forgive me on that. But
All
anything you
good.
took away?
I think the podcast, honestly, both times have been very professional. You had really good questions that weren't just like yes or no, but like required some sort of like explanation or some sort of like continuation. Yeah, I think it's like a really good way. Like this podcast is like a good way for people who are looking to go to certain universities through for hockey or whatever, like to listen to these podcasts because I feel like you learn more about the team and the players from the inside out instead of looking from the outside in. So I think that's really cool, and that'll definitely like if you were to market that towards more like
Mhm.
younger athletes, I think that would really help you.
Definitely. Well, any guests that we should have on in the future or a returning guest?
Okay. I think Nadia Mativi from my team would be a great person to interview just because she's from Italy. She has a very different route to BU than most people did, just because like she came from Europe, did different types of hockey things before coming here. Another one would be I don't know if you've already had her or not, or Amy Potomac.
And her
She's from
sister on.
Oh, you had Sarah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she also plays at Minnesota, also on the way to being on Team Canada, like Sarah. So I think she would be kind of fun to have on. She's very funny, good personality. So I think she would be a great person for your talk show.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the suggestions. And is there anything you
Mm-hmm.
took away from the interview when we last had you on? I'm curious. What I don't know if you listened to it or not, but just what anything you took away from it.
Mm-hmm. I think your interview honestly was a really good way to like reflect on the previous season that I just had and like it sort of helped me honestly break down my goals moving forward because like I actually had to think about it. I'm like, okay, I'm getting interviewed. What am I going to be asked? What do I have to talk about? What should I think about? So I think it's like it was really helpful last year like to talk to you about some of these concepts or ideas because it helped me like just moving forward with like okay, actually this is what I want to focus on instead like so I think that was really helpful from your interview.
Yeah. You also had the best camera that I've ever interviewed. It was so like I don't know why. It was no like
Really?
No, it was like no connection problems, nothing. It was
Oh my
so
God, that's so
it
funny.
looked great. I don't know. I don't. It's a weird thing I noticed is like how good people's cameras are on Zoom, and it was the best one I've ever seen. So I had to let you know that.
That's so funny. This is a super old computer. The microphone is broken, so I have to have my AirPods in, otherwise you won't be able to hear me. It's dented, and I think I got it like 8 years ago, so that's
Oh,
really
nice. Any
surprising.
new? Is there going to be a new computer in the future?
Yeah, definitely there will be for sure.
Now, another thing from last interview, I want to ask you: are you still listening to Migos? And what's your thoughts on the
Yes,
new album, Culture Three? That I don't know when it's supposed to come out, but I've heard rumors that it's coming out soon.
I'm ready for it for sure. Definitely still listen to Migos in my pregame playlist. Like
Nice.
same song, same order. Um, yeah,
Know what
definitely
song I've
still
been
a
getting
big fan.
into from Migos? I started
But
"Handsome and Wealthy." I don't know if you've ever heard that song.
I like that song.
That's a great song.
That's
Yeah,
an old one. It's funny. I really like that song. I used to listen to it with McKenna Parker all the time, like my freshman summer.
yeah, that's a good one. There's a video of Tom Brady like dancing to it in practice. If you ever want to see.
Really?
Yeah, it's
That's so
super funny.
funny. You should send it to me.
I will. I will. I think there's another video of him like with the Migos, like actually like after winning the Super Bowl, and it's the funniest thing
Really?
ever because he's just
That's
like that,
awesome.
and there's like
That's so
you can see
funny.
Quavo just like laughing so hard. He's so goofy.
Yeah, like every time we do conditioning tests and stuff, like in the off season, we've been doing lots of like conditioning and stuff. The girls would always like play Pure Water, which is my favorite Migos song, like and just crank it, and we'd be doing our bike and dying. But
Yeah. Is Pure Water technically a Migos song? I heard it's from some guy named DJ Mustard.
I mean, I don't know. I don't get into the details. I just hear it, like it, and play it until it's like super overplayed. But that's okay.
Awesome. Well, is there anything you want to talk about? The floor is all yours. Anything interesting? Anything you want to talk about, whether it's BU or non-BU related? I don't know. The floor is all yours.
mm, okay, I have a question for you then. What did you think of the team's play this year from an outsider perspective?
I thought it was okay. I felt like you guys, the one thing I will say was I feel like the consistency was definitely hard to happen just because of the
Hmm.
whole COVID thing that was going on. Like from my perspective, I feel like your team was really good because you guys were ranked in the beginning of the year, but then you guys lost that ranking. And I think it's because you guys had such an inconsistent schedule that you guys couldn't get like on the right track. I felt like if you
Right.
had more of a consistent schedule, you guys would have played a lot better than having a 6-6 record. But I
Yeah.
thought you guys played fine for the most part. You had some really, I love the freshmen. Lacey Martin, I've had her on the podcast before.
Hmm.
Next year, and this is just a prediction, I think she's going to be one of the best sophomores next year because that goal she scored against Merrimack was insane. She like took it from the defenseman, dangled around her, and then made that top shelf
Lacey
goal.
is slippery good. Like I hate going on one-on-ones against her. Like more than Jesse. Like I would rather go against Jesse 100 times on a one-on-one than Lacey twice. Like that girl will walk me every single time. Also think she's very underrated. Like she's
Mhm.
gonna like once she finds I feel like she needs a line that complements her skills in a way that she can shine and like do her thing. So once like that sort of matchup, I mean it was hard obviously this year, like with practicing and players being in and out of the lineup, right? Like it's been hard to like get a good matchup. I think next year, like Lacey will have like a really, really good year for sure.
Yeah, no, I just think it was getting that consistency and having such a young team. I think it was hard to kind of get that consistency and get some wins just piling up because I think some teams struggle with this. You guys split and you split, and when you split so much, it's kind of hard to get a good seeding in the playoffs and make that run towards the end of the year. But overall, I thought your
Totally.
team played great. Is Corrine Schroeder coming back?
I believe she is not. I believe she's going to another school.
Nice. Well, I just want to know that because you guys are getting a new goalie, Callie Shanahan. She's one of the top
Mm-hmm.
prospects for women's college hockey next year. So I think she's going to add a lot to your team. I thought the defense played great. I think I talked to Catherine Fulham. Like I said, I think she's a great defenseman. Tamara Giaquinto, like you just mentioned before, she's super good as well. And Julia
Mm-hmm.
Shaughnessy, I think she's a great defenseman as well. So I think like once if all the pieces come together, which they will next year, I feel like BU definitely is a contender to challenge Northeastern and win that Hockey East championship because I think a lot of fans feel like there needs to be a new champion. 4 years with Northeastern is
Definitely.
we're
A little tiring.
getting old. Nice. Well, is there any other thing you want to talk about, or that was just the only question you had?
Yeah, that was the only thing. Just
Any
wanted to
thoughts on
hear
my
what your
answer? I
thoughts
try to
were.
be as honest as possible.
No, I totally agree with what you say. Like it is super difficult, like just with stop and goes. We don't know, like some people are in and out of the lineup. so like inconsistent. I think if we have a regular season next year, I think I totally agree with you, and I think we will definitely be a lot better off than we were this year.
Awesome. Well, is there any shout outs you'd like to give? I don't know if you missed anyone last podcast, but is there anyone I
Um,
forgot to mention?
no, I mean, shout out to you for having me, and to my team, I guess, for such a good year. And yeah, that's all. I think I'm good.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again, Alex, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I admire you a lot as a player, but you're an even better person off the ice, and I just want to let you know that. So thanks for,
Thank you.
helping me out a lot with this podcast. It means a lot to me, and I truly mean it. So thanks for everything.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Now, one question